to mayhem and fighting. Howdy howdy, my name is John, and this video is a combination review and discussion of the book Night Shadow by Sebastian de Castell. This is the second book in the Greatcoats series. The first part of the video will be spoiler free, and then we'll discuss spoilers in the second half. I'll give you plenty of warning to know when that section's coming up. I'm going to keep the non-spoiler section of this review fairly short. If you enjoyed the first book, I believe you're going to enjoy the second. The story's a little bit longer, it's definitely a little bit darker, and it's definitely more complex. The second book really made me appreciate the first book even more, because the first book does a really great job introducing you to the characters and the world. It gives you a fun story to follow along with. The second book takes the world and completely destroys it, and it's really entertaining to read about. This book is going to keep you guessing the entire way through. First book, it was a little bit predictable. The second book is not. Alright, now I'm going to talk spoilers. So proceed at your own risk. In my videos on the first novel, I mentioned a couple of things. One thing I mentioned is I found it a little bit unbelievable that the Dukes would all work together. It seems like they would be a lot more petty and fight against one another. The second thing I mentioned was that I thought Falcio was a little too trusting of the king. This second novel answered both of my concerns. It does turn out that the Dukes are petty and fight amongst one another, but for some reason they all banded together to fight the king. This novel really doesn't address what the king did that was so bad that forced the Dukes to band together. And I'm really curious to see what that thing is. But apparently it was bad. Clearly Falcio has way too much faith in the king. The next thing I want to discuss is the village of Carefall that Falcio, Brasti, and Kest and the rest of their party are sent to investigate. This village was given weapons by an unknown source, weapons that they weren't allowed to own. What this scene in this book illustrates is the fact that if you are not allowed to own weapons, you are not free. You have to be able to own weapons and be able to train them, because this book clearly shows that unless you have training with weapons, you're not really doing yourself any good. When you're not allowed to own weapons, that allows those with power to take away your rights. The next point, hold on, I need to go get something. I had to go grab my cardigan because, first of all, even though it's the last day of summer, it's kind of chilly here. And I know Mark from Slowly Red is laughing at me because, today would be the best summer day for him. But still, this is not summer weather. I need to go into old man professor mode for just a moment. Throughout the first novel and the second novel, people have been using the term Tattercloak and Traitari as insults about the Greatcoats. And Falcio has been taking it very personally when people call him this. However, one character shows him that it's not necessarily an insult. Guys, words only have the power that you give to them. Alright, I'm out of lecture mode now. Okay, back to Fun Guy. The next thing I wanted to bring up is I wanted to highlight a couple of passages that really showed how good of a writer Castell is. Mike posted on his Discord this passage that I'm going to show, and it's talking about how Rusty gets a slight injury and he's really upset about it. But then, after the destruction of Carefall, we see Rusty so upset that he starts trying to dig a grave for the people that were slaughtered with his bare hands. Again, he's an archer. He's really careful about how his hands, but yet he's so distraught by the destruction that he sees that he's just digging at the ground, the hard ground, with his bare hands. All right, now I want to talk about the succession of saints. It really kind of surprised me in the first novel when we find out that saints are actually mortals who obtain the job from another mortal. Kess gets the job of Saint of Swords by defeating Cavell, the previous holder, in battle. And I didn't mention this in my videos, but I kind of doubted that it would work the same way for the rest of the saints. I bet for most people this is a unique way to look at how a kind of demigod type position would be filled. But it's actually something I'm very familiar with. It's basically the premise of the Incarnations of Immortality series, which is an 8-book series by Piers Anthony. I'm not saying Castell copied Anthony on this. They're definitely different in their approach. We meet Burgid, the Saint of Mercy, in this book. For a mortal to take a saint's position, that mortal has to be better than the saint at whatever quality the saint represents. I really hope that Castell explores more saints in the upcoming novels. I did record a few new saints that he mentions in these novels, and I'll be sure to leave them in the description below. I really enjoyed this novel. The plot kept me guessing. There's not really much I really figured out. About the only thing that I kind of figured out ahead of time was the fact that the lamentations that the Dashini apprentices put Falcio through would cure him of his Nethia poisoning. However, I did find that the final fight between Kess, Shurian, and Falcio, and then all of the plotting of the tailor, I found this sequence to be a little bit unbelievable. I don't see how all of this would have come together in the kind of the perfect way that it seemed to come together in this novel. Really, that's why I'm only going to give this novel 4 stars instead of 5. I wanted to end this video with a salute to Vadran Groth. Danha Bath Valatu. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.